checking my audio. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, just confirming that the recording is live. BCAT, want to confirm that the recording is live? Okay, thank you. All right, I would like to call the meeting of the Kitsap Public Facilities District to order on March 28th, 2022. This is our first time back in person since 2020 when COVID started. In that kind of spirit or context, I'd like to start us off by asking the board this question. What is something that you are looking forward to in the coming month? What is something you are looking forward to in the coming month? I'll let you take the question as you're ready.
I like to get the vegetable garden going, so I've got my starts already and planted some things, but in the next month as it warms up, I'll get more and more things planted, and I also have mason bees that I'll get hatching and doing their job with the fruit trees.
So for April, we were going to go down and visit my son in Arizona, my wife and I, and we had planned that. But I have a 3-week trial in April now. And this case has been going on for about 3.5 years, just continuing. So I'm glad I'm finally getting this out of the way and done.
Well, I also am a gardener, but I don't think I thought about that, even though we mowed the lawn for the first time yesterday. I also like to get out into the mountains, so I think I'm most looking forward to more trailheads opening and snow getting off of some of these mountain roads. So,
All right, Phil.
Yeah, I think I have to echo the gardening bit, but I think I'm more excited of going on a vacation for the first time in 2 years, heading to Mexico. So I'm going to go enjoy some sun.
Congratulations.
Yes.
I too am leaving on vacation to go down to Phoenix in Pat's stead, but leave on Wednesday and get to go see my daughter at her college, and haven't really been able to spend time on her college campus with her. And so I'm excited to see her place and meet her friends and do all of that. So love the opportunity to do that. Russ and Brian, want to give you the opportunity to chime in for the question.
Thanks for the question. Get my kayak back in the water, warm up just a little bit more. Yeah, but I really can't wait to do that.
Oh, this is Brian. Sorry for the silence. I'm looking forward not to like a new event or adventure. I'm looking forward to a new grandchild next month and another new grandchild the following month, and a marriage of one of my sons the following month. So I'm looking forward to a whole lot of good family things happening very soon.
What great events to celebrate. That's fantastic. All right. I'd like to move on to item number 2, public comment. If you are here present and would like to make public comment, or if you would like to, on Zoom, raise your hand. Russ will watch for the chat group and for a raised hand, and give you access as a panelist. So please let him know. We ask that you keep your comment within a maximum of 3 minutes. So we have someone present here. Please approach the podium and state your name and what you would like to share.
Great, thank you. name is David Musgrove. I'm a member of the Poulsbo City Council, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm here to welcome you back here. And so we look forward to a lot more in-person live meetings and exchanging with the public. So we're looking forward to that on council, and I'm glad you're getting to do that as well. My second thing was I'm here helping to do the mic checks and video checks and everything, and making sure everything comes through, because we want it to be 100% for everyone to be able to participate. And then finally, I'm also very interested in your item 3, or excuse me, now it's the item 4 facility progress report on the Perk, the Poulsbo Events and Recreation Center. I'm looking forward to that from Carla Boughton. And I'm also, by the way, interested in a relationship description. You guys have been working on, I say you guys, the county has been working on the North Kitsap Recreational and Events Center for going on 20 years now. Made some headway with that and still moving forward with that, as I understand. And so I'm kind of, I'm looking forward to a viewpoint of relationship between the Perk and the NK Rec, what relationship they have, and just as importantly, what relationships they do not share, how they are similar and how they are different. So thank you very much, and welcome back to Poulsbo.
David, thank you for your welcome and for being here. It is really gracious of you, kind of you, to show up for our meeting and give that welcome. And thank you for all of the comments that you brought forward. Thank you for letting us use this facility. As a board, we decided that it would give better access to our community, to the entire Kitsap County, entire Kitsap Peninsula, if we move this meeting around from one jurisdiction to another. And so we have 7 represented on our board, and we try and make sure that we visit all of those places if they have recording equipment. And so we're happy to be here in Poulsbo. And I have made note of your question of the connection between the Perk and the NK Rec, and we will give more information to you on that. So thanks for your time. Russ, do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do. Mr. Hank Anderson has joined us. So, Hank, do you have any public comment?
No, just say a good evening to you all, and repeat that I'm glad that you're able to set this up through Zoom again, and carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Hank.
Well, Hank, when you came on the screen, it was nice to see you. I said we can't have a meeting without Hank. So, Hank Anderson, everyone. Any other public comment?
You see my COVID hair?
Thank you for turning on that camera.
I thought I'd see if I could scare you a little. Thank you very much.
You bet. All right. Next on our agenda is item number 3. It is approval of our consent agenda. The items are before you. We have the February 28th, 2022 meeting minutes, the blanket voucher for operating expenses, the blanket voucher for the Port of Bremerton Circuit of the Northwest project, the blanket voucher for the Perk project, our legal representation agreement for general legal services, the executive director report for March, and the regional facilities report for March. Does anyone wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for discussion? No. All right. There being no objection, these items are adopted. I believe that we can do that without a motion. So we will move forward. Brian, just to confirm that's my understanding, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Actually, I know we're kind of working through this idea of using the consent agenda, but I do believe we need a motion and a second. So,
okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Then I will ask for a motion.
So motioned.
All right. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. All right. The consent agenda has a motion and a second. Although any discussion on it? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, the consent agenda has passed. We move now into our facility progress report that comes to us from the city of Poulsbo for the Poulsbo Events and Recreation Center. And for that, we have Carla Boughton, who is joining us. And Carla, I'll just pass the mic to you and let you take it from here.
Great. Well, thank you, Darren and Kpfd Board of Directors. It's my pleasure and to be here tonight. And you guys are downstairs. I am upstairs in City Hall giving this presentation. So we are still getting used to the new technology in the council chambers as well. Joining me tonight is Dan Schoonmaker, the Parks and Rec Director, and he and I will be giving you a brief update on the Perk project. So I would like to share my screen if that's possible.
Yep,
Can you all
go right ahead.
Okay. Are you able to see my PowerPoint?
Not yet, Carla.
Okay.
Stop my share. Okay, Carla,
Okay.
now we're good.
Great. Thank you. All right. So last time we were before you was in October, and we had put together some exciting, or we had been working with our community steering committee in a September meeting, and we were gearing up for a meeting in November where we were going to present to them a new rendering and site plan. But for tonight, what we reported to you in October was gearing up for that meeting as well as a potential land acquisition. We're going to report to you tonight how what process we went through and what the results of that land acquisition effort was. We're also going to talk a little bit about a phased approach to the Perk project, and then finally our feasibility plan drafting and getting underway. So I've showed you this graphic a couple times just to show you where we're at. We're a little bit further along than we were in October, not too much further along, and that's because we have spent since basically October working on a potential land acquisition. So one of the things that came out of our community steering committee process was that the site, about 6 and some change acres, might not be large enough to have everything that the community would want on that property. And so we had been, the city of Poulsbo, actually the mayor had been approached by an attorney of an adjacent property, the one there in the green square, about perhaps being interested in acquiring that land. And in fact, we were interested in that. And so through a process of, the city council did approve entered into a letter of interest with the property owner in October, or I think it was November, to do a feasibility study for the 9 acres, and with the idea that this additional land could be a phase 2 or a future phase of the Perk project where tournament fields could be sited. So the city did pursue this land acquisition starting in November through basically just a couple weeks ago. We conducted a feasibility study, which included a full appraisal and a phase 1 environmental assessment. And we also were preparing to issue bonds to purchase this property. So working on the financing structure. Just for your information, this was all through city funding. The grant did not pay for any of this feasibility work. The city council authorized the mayor to make an offer to the property owner, which the city did at its appraised value. And unfortunately, the city or the owner did decline the offer. Basically, there is a lot of development pressure for vacant, undeveloped land, and the property owner had been approached as well with other developers. So she declined our offer, but she knows that we are an interested buyer, and should she want to sell to the city, we remain interested in purchasing her property. So what that did was, while we were going through that process, and really spending most of our effort on the feasibility study components. We also had taken some time starting at the beginning of this year to talk to a couple of our individual steering committee members. We wanted some feedback from them from our November 9th steering committee meeting. So we met with a number of our members, and we also met with the Kpfd director. And we wanted to get some feedback on the size, scale, and timing of the project. And what that has caused at least Dan and I to do is to consider planning to organize the project within phases. And this could be potentially downsizing the project, but most likely what it's going to do is identifying 3 phases of development of tournament fields and an event center, but how each of the phases could move forward as standalone so that we can build on the work over time, build on the project over time. So the options that we have that we'll be considering is, and this has been the 3 options that have been discussed in front of the steering committee since about a year ago, is the site as it is. So since we were not able to get additional land acquisition, the site as it is can fit 2 2 soccer fields, which, as you know, is a foundational component of what our proposal was having tournament fields. We can fit 1 field with
Carla,
yeah.
I was going to quickly interrupt you just to say
please.
that the front slide is on, and I think as I page through your slides that I have in front of me, that showing those might give people a good understanding too who are watching this.
Which slide? I'm sorry.
So right now it shows that we're viewing your screen and that it's a Perk Feasibility Study update, and it's the front page of that.
Oh, and we haven't moved on to any of the other slides?
No, but in front of me, I have gone through 6 slides that pertain to what you're speaking about.
Totally. I've been rolling through them thinking y'all have been seeing them. So
sorry I didn't interrupt you sooner.
No, I'm glad you did. So Russ, why don't I pause? Why don't I stop sharing, and you can pull up your slideshow as you had talked about before the meeting. Because for some reason I do have a note that says my screen sharing has paused, and I'm not sure why. So let me stop sharing. Okay. Well, thank you, Darren. I had lots of slides to show you. Okay. Go ahead and move on to the next one.
There we go. I was just sizing it down.
Thank you. Yeah, so go ahead and go through this one to the next one, and I'll just pause there for a quick second. So this was the property that we had hoped to acquire, the one in the green box there. And as you can see, it was 9 acres. And so adding that to the 6 acre and some change of the Perk site would have really been able to provide a lot of opportunity for a full project build out over time with everything that I think the community would want, as well as the Kpfd. Go ahead and scroll to the next one, Russ. So again, here's just going through. So our feasibility study included a full appraisal, a phase 1 environmental assessment, and financing structure to issue bonds to purchase the property. And as I mentioned, the owner has declined the offer. All right. So now to the next. One more. So this was the slide that Darren was speaking to. So thank you. So these are 3 options that the steering committee and the public have been aware of. And what it shows is that our site of 6 acres has limited ability to have everything fit on there. And that's been part of the process the steering committees went through in 2021, is to prioritize what should go on the property. So option 1 is 2 fields with not an event center, And then option 2 and 3 is basically a variation of the same thing, which is one field with very sized building and parking and potential some outdoor recreation. So, so those are the 3 we'll be looking at, and then go ahead to the next slide, Russ. Thank you. So we are beginning to refine our options and identify a phasing plan. As part of that, then we'll finish the drafting of the feasibility study. As you'll recall, we have already done a market analysis. We've done the site analysis and some building renderings. Now we'll be putting together a phasing plan, a draft management plan, complete the financial analysis, and determine feasibility. We do expect to complete that within this year, most likely by late summer, early fall. And Dan and I are happy to answer any questions you might have. And thank you for letting me finish with you guys being able to see my slides.
Thank you for the presentation. Board members, any questions? All right. Well, we thank you for your time, and thanks for updating us on what is happening, and we'll see you the next time around.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5 now, new business. 5A is the Kpfd bond refinancing update. And the update there is that during our last meeting, we found out that the county had refinanced our bonds. And the way that the Kitsap Public Facilities District receives money is that we receive a rebate of the sales tax that all citizens of Kitsap County pay. And that is triggered in the law by having these bonds exist. And so the legislation was updated a couple of years ago, where it was extended from 2026 to 2041, including 15 more years of receiving this tax rebate, which then gave the Kitsap Public Facilities District somewhere between 16 million to 45 million, depending on different economic factors and what we think growth of the county will happen. And so that is the money that we are using to fund the Perk, where you just heard an update, also with the South Kitsap Events Center, as well as the Kitsap or the county's excuse me, Heritage Park, and the Circuit of the Northwest with the Port of Bremerton. And so that is how we fund these projects. And so what we need to do is we have to have the bonds extend out to 2041 to continue to receive that money. The bonds were refinanced, but they were only refinanced out to 2026 is my current understanding. And so we met with our financial advisors who are on this call, I see, and our bond attorney, and tried to best understand the situation and what's the best way for the Kitsap Public Facilities District to move forward with these bonds. And so we have a meeting with the county commissioners on Wednesday morning to just update them on all the projects that we're working on and to talk about any other details that we need to. But one of them will certainly be this bond issue and how do we best move forward to be able to continue to receive the sales tax rebate and continue to build projects throughout Kitsap County. So that is a quick update of where we are with our bond refinancing plans. And I just wanted to give that update, but board members too, if you have any questions, please ask.
I assume then we can refinance them again to extend through 2041 to continue the revenue stream.
Yes.
1, and 2, do we plan on having them back for any updates based off of the increased revenue that we've seen and projections moving forward?
Yes, both of those questions are yes, that is what we are working on with our financial advisors and with our bond attorney is what is the best way to refinance those bonds again to push them out to 2041, and how do we do that working with the county, because we want to work hand in hand with the county, as well as our projections from the beginning have been extremely conservative. So we have gone forward with an understanding of 2% growth for our economy. Now, even with COVID through the last couple of years, you will see later what the percentage increase has been in sales tax revenue, and it's much greater than that. And so we will continue to ask our financial advisors to revise what our expectations are for how much money total we would expect to have and have that to make decisions with.
Aaron?
Yes, Phil.
One question is, I guess, with respect to the financial advice, is how inflation is going to start playing a part in things. I think, we've budgeted, to the various entities that have made requests, but, to the extent they're going to start dealing with material increases, things along those lines, either A, are they going to be needing to come back for some additional ask for us in order to keep the projects viable, and B, what's our position going to be on that? I think we need to start kind of maybe looking at that with kind of an unusual situation that I don't think anyone's really kind of addressed or projected for so far.
That is an excellent question, Phil. And as I said, both Scott Bauer and Ryan Neumeister are on this call, and so we'll just ask them to continue to update us with those expectations as well of how that will change our forecasting. All right. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to item number B, the need for Kpfd business license. And Russ, I will hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. We've been, if you remember a few months ago, we talked about getting a business credit card. And come to find out we can't get one unless we have a business license. So that's one of the reasons why we need to talk about whether or not we want to pursue a business license. The other portion of that, though, is that we cannot take employee. The reason why our previous executive directors did not have unemployment taken out was because there was no business license associated with the Kitsap Public Facilities District. So therefore, the county didn't have a rate to take out for the employee. So if we have a business license, then we go to ESD and we apply with ESD, then they will give us a rate which we can give to the county, and then they will start taking out unemployment taxes. So those are the two reasons really why we need a business license. Now, I did my homework on this, though. I checked with other PFDs across the state, and I also checked with other similar districts to ours. And those similar PFDs like ours, and we're one of the rare ones in the state of 14 where we don't own any of our own facilities. But there is one other that is similar to us, and they said no. In fact, we did get a business license for the reasons that you're talking about. And then I checked with the Port of Silverdale and I checked with the Port of Bremerton, and they also reported that they also got business licenses for the same reasons too. So the cost isn't much. It's $90 to apply for a business license. There's things that I have to provide for them, our documents, our bylaws, and so forth. I'd have to have approval from the board in order to be able to do that and provide that with them. But my recommendation is that we go ahead and do apply for a business license. Once we have that in hand, then we will apply with Employment Security Department. And then from there, we can go back to the bank and then apply for a business credit card.
What action do you need us to take?
We really don't. Well, I guess I have to ask Brian that question. Brian, is a resolution required to pursue a business license?
No, I don't think it is. there will be a requirement of adopting a credit card policy. It's a matter of state law. But just to get the business license does not need any formal action by the board.
Right. Okay. Got it.
I guess, but Brian, while we have you, is there any downside to us having a business license?
No. It's an administrative thing that, has that cost. I think there's an annual report that you have to file and an annual fee, but that's probably in the $100 or a couple $100 range. So not a significant administrative burden or cost burden.
Is this through the state or through the county?
No, the business license would be through the state.
Through the state.
All right. Well, thank you for that update, and please proceed. And let's move on to item number 5C, the purchase of Quickbooks Online for financial tracking. And Russ, back to you.
Thank you. And I'm also going to ask Susan, our accountant, to chime in as well. Susan and I have been working to try to get our line items to match exactly what the county is saying, and it's been a struggle, quite honestly. And I'm not laying any fault to the county. The county had moved over to Workday, so they're still working out the kinks for that. And I know that in our financial reports, we've said the last couple of months that we're not exactly sure the accuracy of those, but we're doing our best to match what the county's got to say. In the end, the county's our bank, so we have to be able to match to them. But Susan and I have been talking about if I were to purchase QuickBooks Online and I were to start recording transactions as our tax rebate comes in, as the debt service goes out, and then as our operating expenses come in, and we make cash transmittals over to pay for operating expenses. We could record that in QuickBooks, which is something that Susan will be doing on her end too. And it would give us a check and balance, so we could instantaneously know exactly where we're at on our operating expenses, exactly what our balance is at in our 977 rebate fund, and all of that. And the reason why that's important to me as executive director is that when I have to go pay bills and I'm putting together a blanket voucher for you all to approve, I have to make sure we have enough money in the operating expenses to do that. Well, sometimes it's difficult because when I go to the county, that information is a few days back. So this would allow us to be able to stay up to date and current. Would it require a little bit more work on my part? It would, but I do think that once Susan and I got into a routine of doing that, I think it would make it far better for us, and I think we'd feel much more confident when we give you the monthly financial reports. Susan, is there anything you wanted to add to that as well?
Well, I just think that it's the accuracy of everything would increase greatly. Instead of matching to a number, being able to have all of the source documentation in real time would make so much more sense for managing the Kpfd. And with the financial background that Russ has, I'm very confident that anything that he enters that I evaluate or go over at the end when we do match to the reports, it's going to be really great. I feel like it gives us an opportunity to really manage things a little bit differently and have live checking account balances as opposed to waiting until the end of the month for the reports when they're posted. I'm 100% in support of it.
All right. Any questions or discussions on this item?
Yeah, I have one. What's the cost of this?
Be honest with you, Pat, I don't know. I want to say it's about $100 because we're buying the online version.
Okay.
And since we're a 501c3, we're able to purchase through TechSoup, and we can actually get it even cheaper.
Correct. And that's about $50 through TechSoup.
Yeah.
Monthly or annually?
No, that's an
Monthly.
annual. That's just a one-time purchase.
Okay.
Oh.
And then it does the updates to it.
Nice. Okay.
I think the online version does have a monthly component to it. Susan, do you know that?
Typically, the monthly component is for payroll, the number of people that you're paying on payroll, and all of our payroll will be through the county. And if we have any that we do need to pay, it will be very nominal.
I'm looking here just online under QuickBooks, and it looks like depending on which plan we would take, it would be $25 to $40 a month. So it's somewhere between $250 and $500, and that is not an expense that I think is something that we should not do this for. Any other discussion on this item? All right. Well, that sounds like a good decision.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, on to item number 5D, our last for new business, the Visit Kitsap Peninsula 2022 contract proposal. We turn it to Russ again, as well as Brian Lawler.
Towards the end of 2021, December, I was handed from the executive director for the Visit Kitsap Peninsula a contract from 2021, but it was just simply the 1 was slashed out and the 2 was put in its place. There was nothing signed on it, and I was wanting to take it to the board and talk to them about it before I put my signature on it, or before I asked the chair to put his signature on it. To date, that still hasn't happened, and we have been paying Visit Kitsap Peninsula $2,000 a month for advertising, of which we really haven't received any advertising at all. Visit Kitsap hired a marketing director back in January, and she is very, very good at what she does. But she's having a difficult time getting any answers as to what Visit Kitsap Peninsula is providing for us. And so I've been asking that same question and not getting much of an answer to it. But the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to get this contract in place so we actually have something in writing. So I took the contract and I have changed it a bit, sent it over to our attorney, Brian, to take a look at it and for his nod of approval on it. Basically, the contract changes to 2022, but it reflects that the contract would end with Visit Kitsap Peninsula at the end of August. That coincides with when the lease expires. Our lease agreement with Visit Kitsap ends at the end of August of this year as well. I also took out the portion that said that it would renew annually. I personally feel that right now we're not getting our money's worth through Visit Kitsap Peninsula because we just don't have anything to show for their work. I feel that if we went to an independent marketing individual that could do work for us as we need them to, that we would get a lot more bang for our buck, and it certainly wouldn't cost us $2,000 a month. So I have talked to Darren about this briefly, and we talked about go ahead and keeping the contract in place until the end of August, kind of as a good faith measure. But then at the end of August, terminating that contract with Visit Kitsap Peninsula. And at the same time, and it's not part of this discussion, but at the same time, looking for another place to house ourselves for the future. So that's the discussion on the contract itself. Brian, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
The only thing I would add is traditionally the Visit Kitsap contract and the legal services contract are 1 year, and they're renewed or not renewed, but generally renewed. At the beginning of each year. The Visit Kitsap contract that I prepared over a year ago was based on that model, but our prior executive director made a modification to allow it to roll over, I think under his signature, upon notice in the prior November, so before the end of the year. And as you said, that didn't happen, and so we're technically out of contract, and because we are paying Visit Kitsap this fee in good faith based on tradition, we do need to get a contract in place so we can document the basis for the expenditure under the statute which allows the PFD to fund promotional activities. So anyway, just I'm using a lot of words here, but we need to get a contract in place, and I think running it several more months is a nice way to solve the problem we have right now.
All right, could I have a motion to approve this contract?
So moved.
Oh, thank you, Phil. And a second?
I'll second it.
All right. And then I wanted to have those to get us to discussion. So now any questions, discussion that you have?
My question, Russ and Brian, Exhibit A, right? In the contracts that I work with other municipalities, when we get to the scope of work being provided, marketing support, is there meat and potatoes for Exhibit A, or are we leaving this kind of as a blanket statement for VKP? While I hear what our executive director is telling us, I'd hate to approve another contract that we're not getting the results as described.
The proposal itself, the contract itself states that they're supposed to give us a quarterly report, which is due come the end of this month, which would mean that quarterly report, or what they have done for us January, February, March, would be reflected in the April meeting. Right now, I don't have any faith that there's going to be anything on that piece of paper that says that.
And has that been a part of the previous contracts? That same
Yes.
expectation is a
Yes, that
quarterly
was in the-
report?
Correct.
And we had not been receiving those?
I can't speak to that. I know that in the fourth quarter in December, I did not have such a report from that. But the only things that I changed in the contract was I removed what Brian had spoken to. I removed the portion that said it would renew automatically each year. And then I changed the date to say that it would end not at the end of the year, but the end of August. But that portion in the contract proposal is there that they report out to us quarterly.
Russ, do you know how many years we have had this contract? How far back it goes?
I really can't say, Darren. I don't know.
My understanding is it has been part of our budget since I came on.
Yeah, and since I came on, which has been several years, it's been less.
And so to give context to this, Patty Graff Hoke was the executive director for Visit Kitsap and had a very good relationship with our previous executive director. And she would come and give us updates on how she was promoting Kitsap Peninsula at large, and as well as specifically the projects that we had worked on and how they were giving advertising dollars to that in different periodicals that people would see and then have an awareness of the projects that we have put together. And so that is the history. But now Visit Kitsap has a new executive director. We have a new executive director. And so there is in this contract a bit of honoring the history, of giving them time to understand that we won't be financially supporting them going forward, because we have been a big part of their budget in the past, because of the reasons that have been stated. So that's the impetus for, and this question has come up numerous times over the last couple of years, especially, of what kind of product, what kind of work are we getting for the money that we're paying. And so that gives maybe a little bit of context for how do we come to this decision, and why this off-ramp of giving them some time to know that this is coming.
Darren, I have a few comments, if I can. Paragraph 2, there's just a typo, assuming we adopted this. It says shall be completed by August 31st, 2021. I think it should be 2022.
Thank you, Phil.
Typically, also in contracts that I'm reviewing, I'd like to see, there's discussion about termination and so forth, but dispute resolution with arbitration, I typically like to have an attorney's fees provision. I don't know if Brian can weigh in on that. Just, none of us obviously expects any major disputes, but obviously the clause is in there. I like to have it so if there is a prevailing party, they get their attorney's fees back. And I guess last, I just do want to comment, I share John's concerns that, Exhibit A has pretty much no meat to it. And so if this is just a kind of a retread of prior contracts, has this always kind of been empty? And that is obviously concerning to me. But I also hear what Brian's saying, that we need to have a contract in place, and it should, I think have a fairly soon sunset provision. So August is fine with me on that.
And I think to circle back to that, I think part of my prior rub with that is the last time Visit Kitsap was in front of us, we were given a presentation and all the things that they had provided in specific to some of our properties at the Kitsap Conference Center and the fairgrounds, etc. So I checked in, happened to be working with folks that represent some of those properties who had not received those services. So I'm not inclined to adopt this without having some meat behind Exhibit A, or at least inviting Visit Kitsap back to give an explanation of exactly what we're doing here, because I have not heard otherwise that has changed.
Other discussion?
It's been a little bit of a black hole for me too, and quite frankly, in the 8+ years that I've served on this board, I've yet to really see any results from the relationship. My question would be, number one, we don't need to continue this relationship, and I don't think it would be a detriment if we terminated it. But out of good faith, I'm okay with extending it, but maybe not through August. Sorry. The second thing I would point out is we ought to conduct, and we should probably get started now, a search for a replacement and give VKP the opportunity to present as well. Perhaps with the new executive director they have, there's new capabilities, and quite frankly, it would be nice to hear from them.
Excellent suggestion.
So I agree with the other two board members on this. I haven't seen a whole lot of results from Visit Kitsap over the years. And every time that we pay them every month, I always wonder exactly where that money's going to. I don't see an invoice ever. I don't know they spent X amount of dollars on advertising in this magazine. It's just this lump of money with really nothing to show for it. So one question I have for Brian. So do we have to give them notice if we didn't approve the contract today, or how would that work?
No, we don't. We're technically out of contract. The contract we had, expired at the end of the year on its own terms, so I don't think any notice is required.
Okay. And then we've already paid them 3 months already, correct?
No. If you saw in the blanket voucher, I did not include this month's advertising because of this discussion. I paid them the rent, but I didn't pay them the advertising.
It seems like there are two ways to proceed. We could go back to them and ask for a Schedule A, and to ask them to come and present and give us a work product of what are you promising us. And we could move the August date. It seems like there is definitely consensus that seems to be out too far. And so if there's any amendment to this, that's another way of forward.
Could I
And then
make
just to be clear, is the rent a different, that's not covered under this. This is separate. I just don't want to cut our nose off to spite our face if we suddenly say we're doing this terminating in May, let's say, and suddenly now we're scrambling for a location.
No, the two are not connected at all.
Okay, good.
I'd like to make a suggestion, and that is that since the contract, if we were to sign that and have them sign it, states that they have to give us a quarterly report, we invite them to be here at our April meeting to give that quarterly report. I think from that point then, the board could maybe even make a more informed decision and ask them about what all is going on with regard to what they're providing for the PFD. And then you make a decision at that point then as to whether or not we continue.
So for me, I think I'm past that. I mean, I've been on the board for several years and we've never got anything, even when we've asked. I wouldn't be opposed to extending out the contract a little bit, not till August 31st, because we do have a long relationship and I hate to just cut them off suddenly. I don't know where that in between would be though.
I don't mind Russ's suggestion. But do we just table this till next month?
I think that just pushes it out further. I think we should change the date and something that the board would be comfortable with, and then move forward. And as I thought Tom excellently suggested, give them the opportunity to also come back and put forward, their proposal for when we go to seek someone to help with our market.
Yeah, we can definitely do both. And we just have to come up with a date that everyone can agree with. I could agree to June 30th.
John, what do you think about June 30th?
I mean, I'm open. Again, I would still want to hear, what are we spending the money that we're continuing to pay, right? That's another several thousands of dollars. So I'd be open to that with the amendment that she's meeting her contractual obligations and providing us a first quarter report.
Any other comment?
Yeah, I would just add that I've seen enough, and my sentiment is to vote no on this. And I think primarily it's because, one, this is not mission critical. We haven't seen results, and I think two, taking the fact that we're spending taxpayer money here, and I take that responsibility very seriously.
All right, Brian, what are our options there if we were to vote no to this? The agreement just dissolves. We just say, basically, we're done with it.
Yes, we'll just, confirm with them that the contract did not renew and we do not have a current relationship with them. We're not funding any more money to them, and probably can go one step further and say the money they received this year is subject to recall.
All right. Any discussion with that information as well that you want to speak?
I would say I'd still leave it open to them if they want to come in, and I don't want to say justify their existence, but my personal view is to terminate it now, but give them the opportunity to come in April to support what they've done over the last 3-4 months to justify it. And, we can certainly revisit it if they can show something, but if they can't or don't want to come in next month, that'll also speak volumes. At least leave the invitation open, hear what they have to say. But for now, vote no on it until we get more from them.
All right. So the idea would be that we would vote no, or if a vote no would also then be an invitation would be included to justify what they have done, and that we could revisit this conversation at that time. I definitely feel that the tenor of the discussion is that people are ready to end the relationship. It's just a matter of how much time. So let's call the question. And all those in favor of approving this contract? Yes, Pat?
I have one more question for
Yes.
Brian. So if we terminate this contract today, would hiring them back, would we have to do a full request for whatever and go through the whole process and open it up to everybody, or would we be able to just renew the contract if we decided that?
There's a dollar threshold that's way above this contract. It's north of 100,000. It may even be 150,000 before we have to go through a competitive process. So to the extent you renew my contract every year, or to the extent we've renewed our construction consultants, the current one or the past one, Brewer, we were not required to go out and do a formal solicitation and bid process every year.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that would be a long answer, but so we could just put together an interim or a new contract with them if that's the judgment of the board.
All right, so the motion that we have on the table is to approve this contract that is before us, that states that it will go through August 31st of 2022. This is in response to a contract that had ended at the end of 2021. And so at this point, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor of approving this contract, say aye. And all those opposed, say nay.
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 All right. The contract has not been approved. Okay, so for discussion, for if we should invite them to the next meeting, I'd like to take that and just make a decision right now. Would you like to invite them, or should we just end the contract? We need to, in our retreat, talk about how we are going to market ourselves and how we are going to make ourselves known. That's part of our discussion that we want to do at the retreat. Maybe it would seem better to just have that discussion and then invite them along with whoever else we would invite to come forward and to say what services they could provide us. Does that seem like a good way forward?
Darren, I guess I would say the reason I would like to hear from them is, as Brian pointed out, I mean, we have paid them for the last 3 months or so. And I'd like to know what we've gotten from it, because if they haven't done anything, and again, as I said, can't justify their existence, those funds may be subject to recall. It was concerning to me. I hadn't heard, John, good follow-up there about some of those properties. I hadn't heard that those properties hadn't received that, those services. Because I remember the presentation that they made, and it was, hey, look at what we're doing, what we're going to do. This is great. And if that hasn't been followed through, that's what basically shifted my vote hearing from John right here. I was willing to go out to August, but if that hasn't happened, so I'd really like to hear from them. What have they done for us for the last 3 months, regardless of whether we, vote to use them in the future, do a new contract. I want to know about getting back some of our money.
Excellent point, Phil. We will ask them to come for the April meeting. Let's move on to item number 6, financial reports. March 2022 report. Ms. Susan Veach. Susan, can you hear us?
I can. I'm sorry. I was just having trouble getting off of mute.
No problem.
So I appreciate the chance to look at these again. Now, what we're looking at there is a summary statement of the 3 funds that are currently active with for the PFD in the county books, the 286, the 968, and the 977. And the 968 is our operating funds. That's where we're paying all of our salaries, all of our bills, everything except for the projects, which comes directly out of 977. 286 has a little bit different personality to it. and it has more to do with our investment. This matches with the figures that the county currently has for our records. And this is did you go to the next one there? Yeah, this is the statement of financial revenue and expense for January and February. And it shows activity. You'll notice that there is an Ask My Accountant line item down below with some significant figures in it that are ones that we need the clarification from the county on exactly where the other side of those transactions are. And so that's one of the things that we want to attempt with the online Quickbooks, to be able to start it from scratch from the newest December ending balances and put in the transactions instead of just matching to their balances, to see where things maybe have gone different or gone to different accounts. And we have found some things that they've corrected for the month of January, and February continues to have a couple of questions with it. The ones that you're looking at now are the expanded versions of those same financial statements. And again, they match to the county. But I have some questions, and Russ and I have been digging into them, asking a lot of questions and trying to find, I believe it has a lot to do with the transition to their new accounting system and the different way of them expressing things and the different reports that we're able to get right now. So that's why I'm excited that we get to go to a live system where we can create things as we go and have a real balance forward. I don't think that there's any major issues other than the fact that they don't have the other side of a handful of transactions. So.
Any questions for Susan? All right. Thank you, Susan, very much. On to 6B, the rebate summary report. And Executive Director Shiplett, will you speak to this?
Yes, sir. So we got our rebates for, you know what, I have to apologize because those 2021s are not showing up when it printed. So, but what I can show you, I'm sorry, 2022 for January and February. I can show you, though, towards the bottom there, though, where it shows in February of this year, we received $197,557 and 85 cents. That was up 2.5% from February of last year. Our debt service actually went down from $70,000 to $67,785, and that's where it will currently stay. We have now come up underneath the $70,000, so it will now stay at that because of an adjusted rate. Our expenses for this month were $35,591, so we ended up with a net gain for the month of $94,182.34. The other thing, too, I wanted to note was that in January, if you remember in January, $177,000 what we received, and received $197,000 in February. The other thing, too, is I'll remind the board that this is actually 2 months in the rears. So this $197,000 sales tax rebate is based upon the sales tax for December of last year.
All right. Any questions for Executive Director Shiplett? All right. On to 6C, the project funding report. Again, back to you.
Correct. And this may be kind of small for you all to see. Let me zoom in just a little bit. No. You all have it in front of you, though, so hopefully you can see it a little bit clearer. I'm sorry for those that are watching on the screen, you may not be able to see it very clearly. But what this is, if you'll remember, we built this to track each one of the invoices that come in for each one of the projects. We also included what the ILA states for what we obligated for. And then down there is the bottom line of what it is still owed based upon those projects. So this month, there wasn't much of a change. If you recall, we had a Perk invoice of $1,257.19. And then we also received an invoice to take a look at for $44,000, and that was from the Port of Bremerton Circuit of the Northwest. So we did not actually have an expenditure of that. It was just an invoice that they're showing us as we've asked them to do and as we review. And then once again, we pay them annually $144,000. We are good to go for this year because we paid that this last month. Again, our process for this is that we receive those invoices. We ask for more details if necessary. I send them to Shannon and to Cindy at Barker Creek. They take a look at it to make sure that it matches to what they're looking for in itemized invoices. And not only that, but project timelines. And once they're satisfied with it, they give me the thumbs up, and then I take it to the board for a look.
All right. Any questions for Russ? Okay. Hearing none, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Does that cover everything? There are no other pieces that I didn't know of? All right. Well, then our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.